I'll do something at the background. Let's see, testing one. So guys, it's after the Currie Cup final. Still here at an icy Ellis Park. I can tell you now, I'm in awe of anybody who was still here at this stadium today. This is probably the coldest Currie Cup final, and I've covered probably 20 odd in my life as a journalist. This was definitely the coldest I've ever had. The weather said 5 degrees. I can tell you now, it wasn't fun being in these stands. There was an icy wind blowing as well. So you can just imagine what the players are going through, but I suppose the adrenaline sort of comes out in them. So the Sharks won it. You've got to say to yourself, and please do watch the press conferences afterwards of both coaches, John Plumtree and Mzwaki and Nkosi, about what they said about it. But basically, how did the Lions lose that? I mean, geez, guys. They were, as Mzwaki and Nkosi said afterwards, Currie Cup champions for 10 seconds. They counted down. If you look at the fan video I did of how the fans were celebrating, and then all they had to do was take a line out, kick it out, and they would win the Currie Cup. And instead, for some brain fart, I'm trying to think of some better way of putting it, they took the ball, they mauled it, lost the ball, and then gave up a penalty. And they gave the perfect opportunity for Jordan Hendrickse to go and give this monster kick of 60-odd meters, 63 meters, I think it was at the end of the day, and put it over. And the Sharks are now Currie Cup champions. I think overall, the Sharks were probably the better side on the day. They certainly did more with the ball. They played a lot more. Both sides struggled in the conditions, I must admit, and it was very much an arm wrestle for a lot of the game. But saying that, you got to feel for the Lions because they came back. They went 7-0 down in the 60th minute. The first 50-odd minutes, there wasn't any score, and both sides just didn't seem to want to take hold of the game. I suppose the conditions played a large part in that as well, but the Lions certainly didn't handle the high balls very well. The Sharks were extremely good in defense, and the Lions just couldn't get their game plan going, I suppose is the word. But it was an arm wrestle, and then Ethan Hooker broke the deadlock, scored in the corner when Sanita Nhamba slipped, and then while the Nico Steyn brought one back for the Lions, and then the Sharks kicked 2 penalties, and we had this wonderful, it looks like the Sharks were going to win everything, and then Siba Kroma went over for a try, which I must admit, sitting in the stands, it felt very much like there was an obstruction before that, and it didn't seem to be reviewed. Now, obviously, if you're watching the game on TV, you probably got a better comms, and it was probably cleared by the TMO. But just from line of sight here in the stadium, it already felt like it should have been reviewed and might not have been a try. But that it was given. The Lions were ahead. They got the ball with 3 minutes to go. They kicked to the got a penalty, kicked to the corner, and then did the inexplicable. I think if you're a Lions fan, you're kicking yourself. You're wondering how you let that slip through your fingers. If you're a Sharks fan, you're celebrating tonight. You don't really care. You've got 2 trophies in the last 2 tournaments. You got the EPCR Challenge Cup, and now you got the Currie Cup with it. And that sort of confidence. And I asked John Plumtree in the press conference what that confidence would do for the team, and you can see his answer in the press conference as well. Yeah, it was certainly an exceptional win for them, and especially one where I've sort of felt like last week the Bulls left the door open for them, and this one you thought the Lions were going to close that door shut, and they left it open hugely for them. Last week the Bulls couldn't plant the knockout blow against 12 men, and the Sharks fought back. You got to praise their fighting spirit for that. But this week it was the Lions who really had a brain fart, and I'm trying to think whether there's Afrikaans. There's a great saying, "Daar's nie pille vir domheid nie," and you got to feel for Coach Mzwaki and Nkosi. If you think of where he's come from, having the Currie Cup team was thrown in the deep end, wasn't given the players, wasn't given the support, and they had 9 losses in a row in his first season. Then he came back and he's won junior titles with his team, and a seriously good coach and a seriously passionate coach, one of the best rising stars in South Africa in terms of coaching. So you got to feel a lot for Mzwaki, and if you want to see a bit more of his journey, Liam and I on our podcast To the Lodge last drop. We spoke to him earlier this week about that journey and about what it would mean to win the Currie Cup. And as you'll see in the press conference after the game, he was gutted, and you got to really feel for him. Now, where does this leave both teams? Well, I think this is a bigger blow for the Lions. They put a lot more into this Currie Cup than other teams. They played a lot of the URC teams. The Stars, they don't have as many players on their books as the other franchises. The Sharks can probably rotate players a lot more. So it's going to be a bigger challenge with these extra games in the Currie Cup for them to go through the URC. And they're going to find that a challenge. And they're going to pick themselves up from this disappointment this week, because they had one hand on that trophy. And now they're going to play Ulster this week coming up in the first round, their first round of the URC, the second round of the competition. So, yeah, you got to feel for the Lions. They gambled and they blew it. And to be honest, it's almost been a sort of... It's hard to say what the situation is there, but you sort of get the feeling there's something missing at Ellis Park. And I'm just worried that this is going to come back to hit them later in the season. The Sharks, well, they've got a tougher task. They're going to go to Connacht this week. They're going to get on the plane to Galway. That's going to be quite tough for them anyway. So they're going to go over there. And I think when they'll be going with confidence, but as John Plumtree said afterwards, they're going to come down from this high and know that this is the start of a new competition, and they've got to get themselves up for that, and they're going to look at a new focus. So that'll be the task of the coaches this week, but it's much easier doing that with the trophy in the cupboard and with a celebration in Durban. You got to... Sharks, I think this year are really the team to watch. I know we spoke, Gavin and I spoke in our chat about the URC. If you haven't seen that chat, you'll see we chat about who are the contenders in the URC this year. So have a look out for that in our URC preview. But I think the Sharks are definitely the team to watch this year. They've certainly invested heavily in players. Their squad, there always used to be this massive gulf between the standout players, the Springboks, and the next best guys. And now you sort of see with the rival guys like Jason Jenkins and Andre Estes and those sort of guys, big names, but they've got more depth that they'll play. And not all of them will be away with the Springboks all the time. Speaking of Andre Estes, and he was immense tonight. He was my man of the match. I know Jordan would easily get it for that kick, and I think he was solid at fullback, but I think Andre Estes was the difference between the two teams. Certainly his physical presence, he was a nightmare for the Lions defenders whenever he got the ball, and certainly if he's going to be playing that sort of rugby, he's going to be knocking hard on the Springbok door. They've got a Currie Cup in their trophy cabinet at the moment, and that's all that really matters at the moment after a final. You don't get to finals to lose them unless you're the Lions, unfortunately, and I know that sounds very harsh if you're a Lions fan. Please excuse it, but I think you've got good questions to ask about your team as well tonight. So that's my wrap here from Ellis Park. It's cold. I'm going to go try and find it feels more like Dunedin than it does Joburg. And anybody who's warm inside watching this, or watch the game warm inside, and tonight with the Springboks later, keep warm, keep safe, and if you haven't already, please press that subscribe button as well. Subscribe to this channel and leave your comments. Let me know what you thought of the final. Let me know if I missed something as well. It's always good to hear from you. I'll be back tomorrow with Gavin, and we'll be chatting about the Springbok game tonight, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, till then, cheers.